The Lot Pod is kindly sponsored by Fast Signs. Fast Signs are an established family-run business who have been providing businesses around Leeds and West Yorkshire with effective signs and graphics for almost 30 years. Fast Signs are passionate about helping customers make a statement with signs that are eye-catching, effective and delivered fast. The Lot.
How do you think Brodie Croft looked today?
Thought he looked like Brodie Croft, but in a better coloured jersey.
Leeds have won back-to-back rugby league titles. The golden generation finally has its golden fleece. No England game, it seems, is complete without a Ryan Hall try. Jamie Peacock.
Kevin Sinfield.
Rob Burrow.
Jamie Jones Buchanan for Leeds.
It's one of the most popular beards in rugby league,
There aren't many in Super League that can do that.
We just want to be a great friend, and if we can all try and be a bit of a better friend from time to time, I think we have a bit of a better place to live in.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Lot Pod, the Leeds Rhinos Lot 17A podcast, kindly sponsored by Fast Signs. It's time for another weekly roundup. No Reese today. It's time for Reese to chill out and have some time off the podcast. Thanks for him for covering me for an eternity, what it feels like. I haven't been here for a while, but I am back with one of our regulars that's making their first appearance of the 2024 season, which to me seems mental. Cameron, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks. You?
First appearance, you are a very, very, very busy man.
I am a very busy man. Buying house, getting married tomorrow.
Getting married tomorrow, moving house, and God knows what. But well, welcome. It's nice to see you for the first time this year. Just briefly, because it is your first appearance, you are one of our regulars. What have you made of the Rhinos this year?
It's been difficult to digest, I feel, the starts of the season. I think almost week by week, the perception changes. I particularly think about that Challenge Cup defeat to St Helens. That was disappointing.
We don't have to think. I'll talk about that.
It was a real low point
in the Rhinos' history. Agreed.
Yeah. Whereas the victory against Castleford, look, it wasn't vintage. It wasn't very aesthetically pleasing. Well, it was in parts, but not all. But it was a step in the right direction, and most of the games have been steps in the right direction, and we have had a few blips. I think the game that we're going to talk about today, coming up on Friday, is going to be a very interesting one, and also is going to be sort of a big signpost of where we are at the moment.
We scored 26 points on Friday.
True.
That's why I changed for the year.
That's a concern.
That is an enormous concern. As I said, there's no Reese, it's Cameron, and we've actually got two brand new newbies joining us in David and Caleb. How are you, chaps?
Yeah, all good.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Welcome to the Lot Pod. We're chuffed to have you. So it's time for the weekly roundup. We'll get to Caleb and David a bit more once I've rattled through this weekly roundup stuff. So unfortunately, the men's academy side lost their third game of the season at Headingley, 24-22. The women's under-19 side won their first match of the year against Featherstone 36-4. So they absolutely battered Featherstone, which is always nice to hear. The netball side returned to winning ways. They won 64-60. I think that's the third time this year the netball side have won, so well done, the netball side. On loan watch, another section on this weekly roundup with Tom Nicholson-Watton, saw some game time for York against Toulouse, but started on the bench in a 14-20 loss. Notably, his position has been listed as loose forward. That's quite interesting. Leon Ruan returned to Doncaster and played 56 minutes as Doncaster lost to Sheffield Eagles 20-26. And Jack Smith played 80 minutes for Halifax on dual reg and partnered Greg Eden on that edge. And Kieran Hudson started at prop for Halifax as well in a 29 defeat to the Bulls. That's the club news pretty much wrapped up. There's a bit more here, actually. The foundation are celebrating Autism Acceptance Week, which is absolutely outstanding. Participation levels in the LDSL team are at all-time high, and there are some great interviews on the club's Twitter page and news page on the website. Let's give that a push again. Some fixtures coming up. Wednesday, the 3rd of April, which is tonight. The scholarship side are playing Castle. That's kicked off.
It's 32-4 at the moment.
32-4 at the moment. There we go. Thanks, Caleb. Looking forward to for their second win of the season. On Friday, it's round 8 of the Netball Super League as the Rhinos head to the south to face the team Bath. On Saturday, the 6th, the reserves welcome Warrington to Stanley at 5 p.m, looking to follow on from their win against Saints 2 weeks ago. That academy side looked fab, by the way. The wheelchair side take part in the Wheelchair Rugby League Fours Festival. Sunday, the 7th, the women play their final cup game against Huddersfield. Both teams are 2 wins from 2, so that looks like a tasty fixture in that one. The game is at West Park, Rugby Union, 12 p.m, and it's just a cash donation for tickets, so make sure you can get down if you can. On to the preview for the men's side. We've got Warrington on Friday. First of all, Caleb, you are absolutely brand spanking new to this podcast, and we know absolutely nothing about you. So just quickly tell us a little bit about you and how you started with the Rhinos.
Yeah, I mean, been a Rhinos supporter for as long as I can remember. But I think it's
you
just
seem
Leeds.
to be, sorry, Caleb, but you look incredibly young. How old are you? I think you're younger than Cameron.
Probably. I tend to be younger than most. 21.
21. So you are officially the youngest ever person we've had on this podcast because we are all old, overweight, white men.
Hang on a minute. I might be older than Caleb, but I'm not old.
No, you're not. That's true. Just you and Caleb. Carry on, Caleb. I interrupt. You'll get to understand that. I always do it.
No, that's fine. Rhino supporter for as long as I can remember, watching from when the stands were originally tiny to now sitting in the centre of the south stand with my season ticket for the last 3 years.
You've seen it all and all the bad.
Yeah.
And David, a little bit about yourself.
I've been a Rhinos fan. I'm 37, by the way, so maybe not the oldest, but definitely not the youngest.
You're not as old as Duncan. Duncan's 62, so you've a long way to get as old as Duncan.
Been a Rhinos fan myself since about, I think 96 was my first game. Leeds versus Oldham, and we lost. Mm-hmm. I seem to remember. I don't remember the game. And my dad and I used to stand on the western terrace, but in the corner next to the south stand, which isn't there anymore. So it's we sit in the north stand now, so we kind of look over with longing memory of that period. So we get all the buzz from the south stand with the cheapness of the western terrace.
And the stench, and all the stench of the Castleford fans.
The Warrington fans, and the Saints fans, and everything in between. But yeah, not a season ticket holder this year, flexi ticket holder, because I don't live local to Leeds, so I can't get to every game.
Difficult. Yeah.
But I'll go when I can, when my dad's available to go with me.
And Cameron, tell me, I'm only joking. We know enough about you. Yeah. I think we'll start with Warrington because there's been some interesting news coming out of Warrington that Paul Vaughan's banned for 2 games. Joe Philbin and Zane Musgrove also ruled out with HIAs. 3 massive players, Cameron, that are missing for wire.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly weakens not just their starting pack, but also their options off the bench. I mean, I think Philbin and Musgrove both started on the bench against Catalan, and Musgrove came on and actually took his try really well. So the fact that they won't be able to bring those 2 on to strengthen their pack can only be a positive. It also makes the Cam Smith appeal even more of a positive because obviously we were set to lose 3 forwards, with Bentley being out with a HIA and obviously Sangare being suspended. So the fact that we've come through better can only be a positive as well. The Packs, I think this is going to be an interesting game in terms of the pack, and because obviously there was a lot of talk last year about Warrington's pack being this, that, and the other, and in the end it kind of flattered to deceive, really.
No, it didn't. It didn't. They won the league in April. Let's have it right. They must have done. But was I in a fucking fever dream? Sorry, careers, George. Like, did I not see Darryl Powell in a working men's club in Warrington celebrating that?
Yeah. Well, I've not been overly enamoured by their pack this year. I'm not saying it's been bad, but I don't. It's not been outstanding. I wouldn't say it's been the best pack, but obviously ours, I'd also say the same. So it's going to be. You're going to have to control the middle of the field in this game, I feel, to win, or certainly have a foothold there. So that's going to be an interesting area for me coming on Friday.
Caleb, I mentioned there Philbin, Musgrove, and Vaughan all missing. I'm a big fan of seeing the best sides, the best players play against each other. So, do you agree with that, or do you enjoy Warrington being weakened for this one?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I didn't smile when I saw that both had failed HIAs and then the ban joined it. I can't say that wasn't a positive going into the game on Friday. But I mean, you always want to watch the best teams. If players like George Williams and Ashton Duffy were all out, then we'd be happy about it. But it could also make the game, a lot worse for the supporters that are watching it. But I'm not going to say no to them missing key players ever.
Do you agree, David? Do you like to see the best players play against the best, or are you happy that Wire are weakened with these three missing?
I like to see the best play the best, because I don't want to think that we're coming up against a second string Warrington side. But also, I guess I want to know that we can beat the best as well, and that we go into the game preparing to be playing the best, rather than like, oh well, Paul Vaughan's not playing, so we don't have to run as hard in the centre of the field anymore. You can get caught out when kind of second string players are coming
in. You mentioned there, Cam, that Bentley's missing due to a HIA. What have you made of Bentley's form this year, Cam?
I was actually saying the other day that I actually think he's quite an underrated start to the season.
Yeah, I think he's played well.
It's always easy for a second row, certainly in this Leeds team over the last few years, I feel, to go under the radar, because certainly I always feel like on the right edge, on the left edge, Reece is quite an attacking weapon, but often on the right edge, whoever it is, whether it's McDonald or Bentley, they just tend to just get through their work. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I'm saying it's positive right now, but it means that they can go under the radar. He's been really combative on that right edge, as he always is, and getting through a lot of work. And he has had some of his hairy moments, shall we say, notably against Catalan. But I don't think he's become, you could say in years gone by, he's been a bit of a liability. I think that would be a stretch to call him that this year.
I agree, yeah.
Fortunately, we're in a position where I think we do have players to cover what he gives us in the middle of the park. McDonald is obviously the obvious candidate to play there against Warrington. I mean, it might leave us a bit weaker on the bench, but I'd rather have him in the 17 than not, especially with some of the other players that we've got missing in that middle third.
Do you agree with that, David? What have you made of Bentley this year?
I mean, I don't think he's the kind of the form we were hoping for coming into the season. Kind of the end of the 22, was it? When he just kind of ran his blood to water against Wigan in that semi-final. I don't think he's quite at that stage yet. I think he's relearning himself, going through his sobriety journey and all that sort of stuff. He's certainly picking up. He's certainly getting through the work. He's one of these that he's not going to hit that line every time. He's not going to, be on the end of a sweeping move necessarily, but he's going to get through his tackles. He's going to get through his meters, and he's going to do a job. And I think where it's helped us a lot, and I have a memory of his kick chasers. He's really quick on his kick chases. He gets up there, he makes the tackle quickly.
Yeah.
Sometimes he can go in for a second effort and concede a penalty, but you need that energy on your kick chase to and he brings that energy in the second row.
Do you agree, Caelan? What have you made of him this year?
Yeah, I think it's just a bundle of energy constantly. No matter where he is, he's running about, tackling everybody really hard. And sometimes in the past that's got him in trouble with high shots and bans and etc. But so far so good this year. He's had an off game at Catalan, with shooting out the line and things like that. But apart from that, it feels like he's the player that people fall to when there's a problem. When really, he's not been that bad of a player for us this season.
I would have said he was a big loss for this game with the HIA or however long the protocol is going to be for him. But like Cam said, touched on there, McDonald were awesome against Cass. So in terms of in form, and I kind of said this like against Lee when we're missing a few, like it's a good game for Bentley to miss when McDonald's picking up form. Do you agree with that, Cam? That kind of at second row we seem to be stacked with good players.
Stacked, but also one of them, unfortunately, is always injured with head injuries. And you got the thought to Paul Morgan Gannon, don't you? Because he would have a shot here, and he ain't gonna
be in, wouldn't he? Yeah.
In terms of McDonald, I feel like based on his form last year, to be honest, if he'd not picked up that knock that he picked up in pre-season, he might have been first choice second row to start the season. That's not guaranteed, but it was a conversation that needed to be had. I mean, but to the fact that he missed out on starting the season, has sort of been on a bench spot since he's come back from injury, but then to come play the vast majority of the game against Cass and be so effective, especially that break for Momorovsky's second try. That
what a break that was.
When you have players who can, when you're naming your strongest 17, are only on the bench, but then you have an injury and you can bring them into the first 13 who can perform like that, that's when you're on for a winner. And that's where I do feel like we may be a bit weaker in some areas in that aspect in terms of bringing up the next man up. I don't think it's always on the level of McDonald, but in this case, I'm very pleased with that. No Bentley. Put McDonald on that right edge, you almost lose nothing.
Would you agree with that, Caelan? Do you think that obviously Bentley missing with the HIA, but McDonald looking to pick up form? Do you think it's a bit not like for like in terms of playing style, but like for like in terms of that quality?
Yeah, definitely. I think if we had both fit, I think McDonald would be my starting person over Bentley, and Bentley on the bench. Just from his form from last season, really, and he's consistent. We've never had a bad word to say about him.
No, we haven't.
He's always performed, 7s out of 10, even when we've lost. So for me, he's like you said, like Cam said, without that injury in pre-season, he could well have been starting.
Yeah.
So I would have started him over Bentley if we had both, personally, anyway.
Do you agree, David? Do you think we lose much in terms of quality if James McDonald steps in?
No. I think he's a quality player. He's certainly one that we're lucky to have and have that step in the squad. I think he's a different player to Bentley. Particularly, is a bit more. I think he's a bit more of an edge player rather than a kind of less of a middle, particularly in his defence. I remember that read against Warrington last year where he tackled, I think it was Wrench. But if he gets away to try and he just absolutely nails him and shuts that play down, and we need players that can make those tackles at the last minute, and he's one of those players that will never let you down in that situation.
Absolutely.
That's an underrated skill, that edge defending. It's a very different sort of style of defending. If you're a good tackler, you need to be in the middle of the pitch, but if you're good, you need to be a good tackler and a good reader of the game if you're going to play a little bit further out. I think on speaking about the ability to play in the middle, McDonald has done some minutes in the middle this year as well, which I've been really impressed by, that he's added that string to his bow. You know, he's really, as David said, he is really good on that edge and arguably a better edge defender than a lot of other players in our squad. But now he seems to be able to do a bit of both, a bit like Bentley, because if you recall last year, Bentley sometimes played at 13.
Yeah, had a spell.
I think it, particularly on when you've got Newman who likes to jump the line, you need, you know, which is great. You know, you want him to do that, and if he gets an intercept in his way, that everyone loves when Newman does that. But he misses that. He misses the tackle. He misses the intercept. There's a gap there, and I think McDonald's read on that can cover that kind of jump better than maybe Bentley could.
Yeah, bit more defensive nous from McDonald. Another player that's missing due to a ban is Sangare, but we do have Tom Holroyd who's set to return. Caleb, do you think that's? I'm kind of repeating myself again here, but it's just perfect timing again in that we lose one but gain another.
Yeah, good replacement. I think Sangar's a big loss in terms of our starting props. I thought he made a big impact in that first half against Cass on Thursday. He was tackling, you know, every person that we're seeing every 5 minutes. He was tackling somebody else, and I was thinking he's putting in a lot of work in that half. And obviously we were needed that because we defended our line a hell of a lot in that first half. So I think he's a big loss, but again, same as Bentley and McDonald's, you know, we've just brought in Holroyd back, straight swap. I don't think we'll miss Sangar necessarily with Holroyd in.
We're kind of gushing here, David, about we lose one player, but then the one coming in is either of the same quality or slightly better. How do you feel about losing Sangare but Holroyd returning?
The different styles of props, aren't there? So with Sangare, he's a big body, he tracks defenders. I know he gets a lot of flack from fans. So what does he do? It takes four, maybe 3 or 4 people to take him down, and that's sapped energy from the defensive line. It might not be, not doing a leg skill, which is big leg drives, and he's making meters out of contact. I seem to, I don't know if you remember, there were pre-season, one of the behind the scenes things where Smith said, if you're an offloader, make sure you get your offload away. If you're not an offloader, don't try it. So there seems to be roles within the squad about what players are expected to do. And I think Sangare is one of those that he takes the tackle quickly, goes to the ground, gets the player the ball, saps defenders. Holroyd is a bit more of a leg driver, I think. Yeah. It's a bit more, find his feet, dominate the tackle, and get the player the ball. Don't think it's a loss. I think we might miss some size off the bench without Sangare. But as you said, Warrington are missing forwards as well. So it's a bit like for like in terms of loss of kind of size. Both teams are running with small packs.
Cameron, perfect timing again for Tom Holroyd to return for this one.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what happens. It feels like, although we've always had sort of 95% of our options in the middle available every week, it'd be interesting to see what happens when they're all available. I think for Sangare, it was a really, this start to the season has been a really important run for him, because I think he started last year really well and sort of lost a bit of that momentum. And I think, in my opinion, he's always going to be best off the bench. But having to become a starter for us with the injuries that we had early in the season, I think it was round 2. That was sort of I think it was his first ever Leeds Rhinos start against Hull KR. And I know we lost that game. I was pleasantly surprised with his performance. And every week he's just sort of been steady away, starting a prop. And I think he sort of played himself into a bit of form. Like, he's not setting the world on fire, but I feel like he's building his confidence back up, and he's showed that he can do a different job rather than just being an impact sub. Conversely, I think this is a big opportunity for Holroyd, because he obviously started the season with an injury. I don't think he's done that many minutes in the games that he's played.
No.
And in those minutes, I don't think he's had that sort of really big standout performance. That I'm not saying he's been bad, but I'm saying he's not really reached the levels that I know he can reach, and he has reached in the past. So this is an opportunity for him to say, you've been playing in my position. Yeah. I want it. I want to put my stamp back on it. And that can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. Nice to see him back. Cam Smith did get a game ban from the match review panel. and then it quickly got overturned last night. Was it late last night or late Monday? So he is available. We'll just quickly. We don't really like to say how pathetic the match review panel are on this podcast, but I think we'll all quickly whip round Calum. The right decision made in the end to overturn it.
Oh yeah, 100%. I can't even believe they gave a ban. To be honest, when I saw, even when when Leeds are releasing the clips, it's bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, right decision made eventually. And by the sounds of it, the squad have whipped round for his 250 quid fine instead. So,
Common sense prevails, David. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Hashtag free the Beansmith.
Hashtag free the Beansmith. It's free now.
Right,
Common sense prevails, Cam.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, it seems that way. It's been a funny season in terms of disciplinary, and
I think it's going to get worse.
It's been odd because the first 2 weeks they sort of threw the book at everybody, which you kind of were expecting with the new rules. Then, sort of between weeks 2 and this week, they were quite lenient. You're getting 1 or 2 bans a week from the entire league, and then look, it were always going to be a bit more in rivals round. But to see that kind of challenge hit with us, I mean, technically it wouldn't have been a ban, would it? It's his prior record that was the reason he got a suspension. But even so, to say that that's anything other than a grade A, and maybe not even that, is a surprise to me. But this is why you have an appeal process, I suppose.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And it came through for us here. And look, even the most ardent Warrington fan, I don't think can complain that we had that suspension overturned personally.
The whole world agrees that was never a ban, apart from those scruffs in Castleford. We'll kind of look at the Rhinos squad now. Does everyone agree? We kind of always do this, but the 1 to 13 picks itself. Everyone not in agreement with that. We've only got to discuss the bench, really. So rather than me rattle my bench off, I'll start with Calum. Who would you like to see on the bench on Friday, Calum?
Yeah, well, originally with Cam Smith out, obviously O'Connor had jumped in and Edgell onto the bench. So with that now reversed, Lizone, potentially Holroyd or Gudemond, depending on which one he prefers. O'Connor and then Donaldson, because I think that's all we've got left. Obviously, it could potentially put Edgell on the bench, but I'll stick with Lizone, Holroyd, O'Connor, Donaldson.
Do you agree with that, David?
Yeah, for my bench, I've gone O'Connor, Gudemond, Lizone, and then it's a toss between Dono or Edgell, depending on whether he thinks we need to run with the back in the game. We don't know if anybody's carrying an injury. We don't know about Newman's lip, whether he's fit to play. If he's not, it's going to be Martin into the centres and then Dono into the second row and Edgell on the bench, I reckon.
Cameron, your bench?
Yeah, I don't think it's a particularly hard team to pick this week. In all honesty, I do think the big call that he's going to make in terms of 13 and 17 is: does he go with Holroyd or does he go with Gudemond? I think Gudemond.
Yeah.
When Gudemond started a prop, I think he's done a really decent job. Go back to that Catalan game when he made that break just before Harry Newman's try, which was very good. But I would like to see Holroyd start because I think, like we're talking about opportunities, he wears the number 10 shirt. He was supposed to be our starting prop. I'd kind of like to see him have a go. So I suppose he starts for me, Gudemond, O'Connor, Lissoni. And I think it's Donald. To me, it has to be Donaldson. I understand Rowan's thinking sometimes playing a back on the bench, but I think it came back to bite us against St. Helens in that Challenge Cup defeat. So personally, I don't want to really see. This is not a discredit to Alfie Edgell either. I really like him. I think he's going to have a big future, but I don't really want to see him on the bench. One person I was very pleased to see in the squad, and I don't think he'll play, but it's nice to see him in the 21-man squad, is young Ben Littlewood.
Yeah.
In pre-season, and probably Tom Nicholas Wharton and Leon Ruan. They would both be ahead of him in the pecking order if they weren't out on loan, and they're both excellent young forwards as well. But also, it's nice to see that we've got another one, and that the more
on the conveyor belt, just roll him off, drop him in. Predictions time to wrap things up. Who wants to go first? Anyone want to put their hand up with them? Go for it, Cam. He's jumped in the deep end. What's the score going to be, Cameron?
I'm going to go 28-24 because for some reason
Wow, what a game, right?
I know. I'm getting vibes of we played Warrington in the first game after the Easter weekend period in 2013. That was back when you used to play both Monday, Thursday, and Easter Monday. So after Easter Monday, the Sunday after we played Warrington, it was a good game. Sort of similar weather to what we've got now, a bit of rowette, but also not too bad. And we won that 28-24. So I'm going for exact same as that.
Caleb?
28-20.
I'm assuming to Leeds.
Yeah, definitely to Leeds. I can't back Warrington to win. I think Warrington, albeit either top or near the top of the league, they've had some very easy fixtures. They've played LFC, Cass, London.
Now they're playing the big boys.
Lost to Catalan twice and scraped past OKR. So I'd like to hope that it's going to be high scoring because I just think they've been scoring a load and we've been scoring slightly less, but I think we've got enough to beat them.
David, these two nutters have said a really high scoring game. Do you agree? Do you think it's going to be close? That both teams are going to score loads? What do you say?
2-0.
That's a Statman race prediction.
I was going to go 26-18. It's really going to come down to me. It's really going to come down to who fires between Miller and Dufty when it comes to attacking play. I think those are going to have the biggest impact on that game. Yeah.
Statman Reese texts me his prediction. Reese says Leeds 30, Warrington 12.
That'll be a statement.
That would be, but I think Leeds are going to win 46-12 on is it Friday?
I'd like to see that. On
Friday. I think we're going to absolutely batter them. Caleb, welcome to the Lock Pod. Thank you so much for appearing. Same to you, David. Same to you, Cameron. You're always here with us. You're always welcome. You all are. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back to review that Warrington game on the match review panel from the ACD&B studios. Take care, everyone.